Reed Frawley, Twin Nguyen, and Stephanie Brower. However, before I get started, I'd like us to all observe a moment of silence for our fallen colleagues over at Virginia Tech. The debate will last for 40 minutes. The topic for today's discussion is campus safety, financial policies, the party system, and some general questions. For each question, there will be a 2-minute response, a 1-minute rebuttal, and an optional counter rebuttal of 30 seconds. Candidates may not direct questions at each other, and there will be 2-minute closing statements, but no opening statements. This first question is for Darren. Each candidate speaks of fiscal responsibility and fiscal transparency with respect to AS finances. What exactly do these terms mean? And if you are advocating for that, in what ways has the current administration not been responsible or transparent in their allocations?
Well, fiscal responsibility refers to the allocation of funds received by associated students through certain student fees. And I believe that there has been problems with the allocation of money throughout the student body from university funds and student funds. And I feel that there is a need to allocate this money to where it represents and it affects the entire student body, whereas certain issues and agendas have been directed towards a select minority of the student population. And I feel that that money's been directed towards students through certain programs such as extracurricular activities involving movies and transportation services. And I feel that there's a need to distribute this money where it can affect the entire student population and the community as well. And we can use this money to raise funds for community events such as concerts or other internet access for the entire student body.
Twin, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Hi again, my name is Twin Nguyen. I'm running for president with Students Party. And I feel for fiscal accountability and transparency, one of the things is that people are not, students at large are not understanding what money associate students are using it towards. And I think it's a battle that we've been trying to struggle with an associate student is to get students connected with these resources and things like that that are provided by associate students and through different channels. One of the things is to have that visibility. And I think in terms of presenting in terms of different things, in terms of different programming that are sponsored by associate students, that are given by associate students, to be aware of more of that visibility that we are spending the money of students in these avenue and they are coming back to students. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to focus on, I think, in the near future, is to create that visibility in terms of now we have the money to prevent a weekly newsletter or something like that for students to see that things are working and things are going on within associate students. So yeah, thank you.
Darren, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
Well, I believe that there is a need to make it more transparent of what Associated Students is doing with their money, and that we can raise awareness around campus by tabling with Associated Student staff, making students aware of where the money is going and where the money is coming from. And that's what there's need for fiscal responsibility.
Thank you. This question is for Twin. It has been said that the party system on this campus is flawed, that while the parties in the system claim to be open to all students, the party system breeds exclusivity and divisiveness. Is there some truth to this statement?
Again, my name's Twin, running with Students Party. And I think one of the things that Students Party have always tried to do in terms of opening up our forum for students to come in and be interviewed or give their say in terms of student being interested in running with Students Party. And I think there is some sense in terms of that being flawed, but we tried the best as we can to select candidates who are diverse, from diverse background and diverse opinions and diverse interests in terms of creating the space that to best represent students. And I think the work doesn't only stop with the elections, and I think our work as Students Party and as folks go beyond the elections process, and that we will continue to do the work, and then whoever that comes in to interview with us and that continues to work on forward with us in the future. And I think we're opening this forums for folks as Students Party to come into the space and to come in to provide this space for students to get involved, as well as to understand what this process is to be, and opening that up to create that voice for all students. And so in some sense, it can be flawed in terms of what it is, but I think dependent on which party and which process that it's being used the light into. So what we're trying our best to do is to get students to work in Associated Students and to continue to do the work to improve the life of students. So we do the best that we can in terms of what it is. So.
Stephanie, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. So to me, I think the party system does cause huge problems on our campus, and that's something I would agree with. My first concern with the party system is that under the blanket of a party, there are students who are really hard workers, students who are dedicated and are great student leaders, and there are students who are less motivated and will be less involved. You look at a party and you look at all the accolades that party brings, and that party, with all the members that are in it, is going to be strong. And you can look at each party and say, you know what? This is a good representational body. The question is, who are the individuals making this up? When it comes to voting, I would encourage voters to base their decision on individual candidates. Look into each person and see how are they best suited to this position, and not to be deceived by the parties. The biggest problem to me, though, with the parties is when people take what happens in election season and bring it into the office and bring it into legislative council. Once people are elected, the party system needs to drop, and people need to remember they are elected students there to serve students in the student government. And that is my concern with the parties.
Twin, you get a 30-second rebuttal.
And I agree with Stephanie in terms of the party system needs to drop, and it has been in Associated Students. When students finally coming out of this, that we do work together, that both students, party and OPP or whoever that may be in the future, that this continually works together and folks are continuing doing work together. I know myself personally, for us last night, we dropped it. We worked on putting together this vigil together. And I think ultimately what we want is for AS to improve and to continue to grow. And we want to elect folks who will work towards actively doing these things.
Thank you. Stephanie? In past years, students all over the United States have suffered from violent attacks on their campuses. In saying this, I am reminded of the Columbine shootings. David Addy is killing 5 UCSB students after running a stoplight, and the recent tragedy at Virginia Tech. In your opinion, what do you think drives certain students to act in violent manners? And do you think that this behavior could be prevented on our campus? If so, how?
Thank you, Chaz. Again, my name is Stephanie Brower, running with OPP. And I feel like this question is especially prevalent pending that we're sitting here today, just one day after the tragic shooting that happened yesterday at Virginia Tech. And I'd like to thank our moderator, Chaz, for having a moment of silence to that end. To me, what I saw last night, organizing the vigil with members of Students Party as well as members of OPP, was the connection that exists within our community. And it should not take an event like this to pull us together. I think that individuals are driven to this when they feel isolated from the community, when they feel like they don't fit, when they feel like they have no outlet for their voice. And events like last night show that as a community, we are dedicated to making things happen on this campus for everyone. That also feeds to me into the role of what is Associated Students. Associated Students, a place for everyone, is sort of the tagline there. And the point is that it should be. Associated Students shouldn't be for just people who want to be involved, shouldn't just be for people who feel like they have a personal issue. Associated Students should be there to represent the entire student body, should be a voice for all those students, and should work to not isolate any of those students. Per that end, for example, taking a stance on an issue maybe that really divides people could really cause an issue on our campus. If someone was to see, gosh, even my student government is taking a stance against me, that might be a point when they made a rash decision, when they decided to commit a rash act. Another important thing I'd say is that our community needs to band together to protect each other. It needs to band together with the police, to have a police accountability, and to have students be able to trust the police and to go to them when they feel in danger. It relates to things like lighting and disability access to our campus, so people can have a safe way in and out and can avoid problems like this. But most importantly, this brings to me the point of the need for us to pull together as a community. We are a unique and diverse body, and it's important that we manage to keep everyone together, despite our differences, despite our complaints, to protect the community.
Darren, you have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, I believe that the accountability does not stop within AS, and that we can reach out to our student body members through campus resources such as counseling, career services that can treat disadvantaged students and students with mental problems. I believe that that's where these safety issues begin, or within students with distress, with community affairs. And I believe that not only is the student safety, but environmental safety as well is an issue here on campus, and that we need to take advantage of the faculty members that we have to make this campus a safer place, and that we can support our fellow members of the student body through different activities such as safety awareness clinics, and show accountability for each other.
Stephanie, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
Thank you. I would like to agree with Darren saying that taking care of students who are experiencing, for example, mental strife is really an important thing. I had the opportunity this year to work a lot with student health in the process of improving our mental health availability or options to students who are feeling this stress. And that's definitely an avenue you can go on to directly affect this problem, a tangible result. Because the most important thing here is we're at college. We need to have a safe academic and social environment. And before we can get to that point, people need to feel safe and protected on their own campus. And so I'd like to agree with Dan on that.
Thank you. Twin, in the past, we have had presidents that have had a lot of AS experience and those that have had none at all. How important do you think having AS experience is to being an effective president?
Again, my name is Twin Nguyen, running with Students Party, and I think an experience with an associate students for a president and any of the executive position is really important to the organization, because I think, as we've seen for any AS president that has not had experience, is that you play what calls a catch-up play. So you spent the first half of your year playing and learning the organization, and so that whole entire year would be dedicated to that instead of doing issues that concerning to students and learning and working with students, and especially with associate students this year, that there is a humongous amount of things that are going on in terms of the student initiative that is just passed and a lot of new expansion within the organization, that we need people who has experience to really move forward the vision or the things that are happening in Associated Students, and to work forward for the needs of students, and to continue to provide resources for students, and to account for this expansion, and to know how to move forward. Because if we continue to sit and learn, because there's something we can always learn in the organization every day, but we can't really go back 10 feet back to kind of learn the whole organization and leave it stagnant while students are looking for something more and for progress that's continue needing to happen within the organization. And that there are demands that our students are looking for us right now in terms of what has come in and what needs to happen in the future with it.
Thank you. Stephanie, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to actually disagree entirely with my opponent sitting to my left. The point is that the AS president is almost entirely separate from the internal workings of Associated Students. Anyone who has executive experience on our campus or has worked with the AS president, as I did extensively this year, understands that. What the president does is exactly what I do every day on this campus. It's to advocate for students to the administration. It's to have a thorough and solid knowledge of what happens on this campus at the higher levels, and to take what happens in Legislative Council, the important ideas that are brought up there, and to feed that into the administration to make tangible change happen. Having experience with NAS may actually be derogatory to the position, because, in fact, the AS president should not be involved with what happens in Legislative Council, but rather with the direct issues that affect the students. Should work on the broader basis to think of what students need and what are the most crucial issues for students. To do that, executive experience is absolutely necessary. Being the AS president and having a learning curve of how to be an executive would be terrible for the students. So I'd like to say that it's much more important that an AS president has executive experience than any AS knowledge.
Twin, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
And I think, again, my name is Twin Nguyen, running with Students Party. One of the biggest things I think as AS president, there's this huge disconnect between what it means to be elected official in Associated Students and with the rest of the boards, committee, and commissions, is that there's this huge disconnect within these offices. And I think it's essential that we connect to these communities to understand what it is that students want, and for us to translate that into an executive and administrative level so that we can speak to all students and to create that voice for all students. And I think that experience is necessary for us to understand and to hear the voices of students, and not just our voice as someone who's sitting in an office. I think that we need to be connected to all the community to understand that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Stephanie, what faults do you see in the current administration, and how will you rectify them?
Again, I'm Stephanie Brower, running with OPP, the Open People's Party, and I'd like to say that our current administration, for the most part, does a really excellent job advocating for the students. One of the biggest problems I see is a disconnect between all the ideas that students bring up, between all the things that students provide, all the needs on this campus. I see a disconnect between that and what the administration actually understands we need, understands how it needs to be applied. I think there is an incredible amount of goodwill and good intent among our administration. And in my experience at UCSB, being a leader on this campus, I've seen nothing but strong attempts by the administration. The most important thing to have is to have a leader, an AS president, who knows how to work with the administration on this campus, who understands how best to communicate to them what we need. The administration has good intent and is willing to work hard for us. The point is, we need a leader who can take what is brought up, all the ideas that students provide, the vast array of things, and combine that into a package that the administration can understand and apply. This year, I took on a variety of huge issues that had been worked on for past, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. The administration had good intent, and they just needed that push to understand, students need this now, and this is the specific issue that we have concern with. I was able to communicate with them through the good rapport I've built with them, and to make these things happen, to get lighting on the FT bike path so that students can come back and forth to campus, so there's better disability access, so that students have an access to the things they're paying for on their campus, that I could get Loma Polona built in Manzana Village, that there's now a programming space. These things were things that faculty and administration were willing to do. The question was, did they understand specifically what we needed and how to provide it for us? The role of the AS president is to do that for students. if there are not tangible results, that reflects directly on the AS president, because what the AS president needs to do is to be in touch with the community and to bring that pulse to the administration. Thanks.
Darren, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, the administration at UCSB has been running pretty smoothly since my experience here for the past 4 years. But I believe that the AS president needs to work well with individuals, the leaders among the administration, who specify in certain areas of control on campus. And I believe that there's a need to be able to work with these leaders individually, but as an administration in whole, there needs to be a collaborative effort for the better of the UCSB community, and that the AS president needs to voice these issues of the student body and make it a better place for students to learn and experience social activities.
Stephanie, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
I'd like to agree with that sentiment brought up here by Darren and expand on the fact that while it is important for the Associated Students president to have involvement with the leadership on our campus, with the Associated Students leaders, with the administration, it's also really crucial that the president be open and involved with all the groups and all the different people we have on our campus. That includes first-year students. That includes the seniors, the Greeks, the athletes, because having involvement and an understanding with all of these people, having open dialogue with these people, better provides an opportunity to show the administration exactly what we need, because then you actually understand what our campus as a whole needs. And the Associated Students president should be here to serve the UCSB students first.
Thank you. Darren, of the 3 presidential candidates, who would you vote for if you could not vote for yourself, and why?
Well, I believe I'd vote for Twin Nguyen because I believe she has great ideals with ideas to come through with this campus and voice the opinions of the student body. And I feel that she, with her experience through Associated Students, she can work well as the AS president and adapt to the change that goes on within this environment. And with the experience that she knows the inner workings within AS and won't need to spend that time learning the system, and she can just do her duties to the best of her abilities.
Twin, you get a 1-minute response.
Again, my name is Twin Nguyen, running with Students Party. In that aspect, I would say Stephanie Brower if I can't vote for myself. But I think one of the addition that I would add onto it is that we need someone to really be there. And I think if anything, that we need someone under her office that has that experience, if she does elected, to give her into this organization, because I think experience is really important in terms of how this organization is going to be run, on how this organization is going to move on in the future. Because as folks has mentioned, is that connection to students is very central, as well as communicating that to the administration. And so I think the experience in which the organization and the folks in that office needs to have is that being able to effectively communicate with the organization who you are working with, to understand that and to move that forward and to communicate that vision and understanding to the administrator, and also to have that desire to push that forward for students and to move that forward. So yeah.
Stephanie, same question for you.
Same question?
Yeah.
I'd say if I could not vote for myself, I would vote for Twin Nguyen. And I'd have to say that because I feel like last night I saw what is the best thing about student leadership. Last night at the vigil, I was able to see Students Party and OPP members take, their campaign shirts off and connect to really work hard on something. And I was impressed with the fact that despite the fact that we're in the midst of crazy elections, that both parties can do that. I feel like if I was to not be able to vote for myself, though, and to vote for Twin, that I would hope that I would be able to work with her, and that members of the administration would be able to work with her to catch her up on what it means to have to represent students to administration, what it means, how best to do that, how best to work for that. And since I truly want what's best for the students, I would truly be willing to work with her and try to get what happens best for students on this campus. So I'd say that'd be my answer.
Thank you. Twin,
Yes.
What is the difference between the Students' Party and the Open People's Party, and why did you choose to run under that slate?
And again, my name is Twin Nguyen, running with Students' Party, and one of the big difference, and I think in terms of Students' Party and OPP is the Open People's Party, is that a lot of the folks who have run with us, and especially if you look at our execs board, everyone has experience and dedication, and everyone has worked actively, whether or not they were elected officials, whether or not they had won or lost an election, is that they continue to work with the organization. And even with our legislative council member, is that they come from diverse background, as well as folks who have been actively involved in the community and who has been working on issues and will continue to work on them despite the fact whether or not they will get elected. And one of the things is that we will try to the best of our ability to communicate the voice of the students across the base of this campus, and that we have this network of students from this different diverse organization to help create this coalitions of students and to communicate better with students, to create this bridge between associate student and the rest of the campus communities. And that for Students' Party, it is our passion, and that folks are working on issues, and despite whether or not it happens, is that we will continue on working on these issues, whether from accessibility into higher education and things like that, or issues on this campus, safety among the most of them, to work within these different communities to ensure the safety of all students, and that students have safe spaces, and to create the communities that students have to be able to ensure an enjoyable environment for students to come to campus. So one of the biggest things, to recap, is experience, dedication, and we have been and will continue on working on these issues that we have said on our slate. Get a flyer if you need to, in terms of our platform and things to come.
Stephanie, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thanks. I'd like to talk a little bit about what my opponent just said, in the sense that I think that there are a lot of similarities between the parties. We are all diverse. We both have diverse slates. We both have diverse opinions, and would really love to work on the broader issues on this campus, like safety, like lighting, like access to the university. These are things we all have in common. These are not things that separate us in any way. The difference is that the Open People's Party is here to focus on the students at UCSB, on making UCSB the best place it can be for the time you're here until you graduate. There are so many things, tangible things that can be changed on this campus. And so while we definitely agree and will focus on the broader issues, the long-term goals, it's important not to lose sight of the students who are here, of the students who are paying the fees, of the students on whose back Associated Students is funded, and to return that money and that time and that trust to them, so that students here see results. Students here understand why Associated Students exists. Associated Students and the goal of OPP is to bring everything back to the students. And that is what separates, in my eyes, the two parties.
Twin, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
And I think one of the things folks continue to focus on Students' Party is the external and local issues that we work on. And I think one of the things that folks needs to look at too is there's various organizations and folks on our slate who work on internal issues and issues here on campus, whether it is right now sitting on looking into expansion of space for students so that students have space for media center. I think safety is one of the hugest things for this campus, because we can't exist, or we can't continue to go to college, or students can't continue to be at this campus unless they feel safe to be on this campus. And one of the issues is that this needs to happen for students to retain themselves, and retention of students to be able to graduate is one of the hugest things that we need to focus on, because we want to see everyone in the audience and folks to continue to be here. So yeah.
Thank you. Stephanie. The Conquest housing issue has again revealed the problem of housing for students and community members. How will you hold specifically the Chancellor and Firestone accountable in solving this problem that has been recurring for over a decade?
Thanks. Well, the first thing I would is to work with the EVPSA, she or he, who will be involved with us next year, because they are, of course, our first connection to Isla Vista and to the issues we have there. I think Firestone is a wonderful person. I think we could use more directed leadership, more directed focus on our community. Isla Vista is a very unique community and needs some help. And I feel like it's the duty of Associated Students and UCSB students on this campus to work on this area, because while we can hold Firestone accountable, he has a huge area he works on, and it's more important that we know what we need here, and it's important that we come up with what has to happen. Affordable housing in Isla Vista is a huge problem. It's a space problem. The IB master plan is trying to help to deal with it, but it's a long-term goal. And while we continue to fight for affordable housing and continue to fight for the diverse community we have living there, for the families, for the students, I think it's also important that we look for things we can do now, for tangible changes. I work with the Transportation Alternatives Board, and this is something I'm very, very passionate about. If we had better transportation in and out of Isla Vista, in and out of our UCSB community, sustainable transportation, it would really help to alleviate some of the housing problem that many of our staff, our students, and our community members are feeling now. That said, while I definitely think we should continue to fight for affordable housing and that we will win that battle, in the short run, it's important to say, what can we do now? What can we do to help people currently living in this area who are currently facing these problems? And to me, that's where transportation alternatives come in. That's where the more tangible focus concepts come in. And that's where my experience within this university will help me out. So that's what I would say in terms of this and in terms of the Conquest student housing issue.
Darren, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, I'd like to reiterate that it is important to advocate for the students' rights and their tenants in Ivy. And I believe that there is a good cause within the county where they had bought out a apartment complex and issued each unit to low income housing. And I feel that that's important when there's approximately 8% of non-student residents in Isla Vista. And I think that it's important to maintain a great opportunity for UCSB students to live out in Goleta, and it's important to focus on transportation services here within Ivy and outside of Ivy to Goleta, so students can have the opportunity to live out there outside the party scene and focus on their academics and live a respectable life.
Stephanie, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
Well, I agree that it's important that students are also able to live in Goleta and have that option. I think it's really important that we work a lot on what's happening in Isla Vista and on the crisis we're facing there. And to that end, I'd like to bring up the Just Cause Ordinance and the concept that tenants would then need a reason to evict people from their housing rather than simply having the right to do it. And I think that this is another thing that we could really push for in the coming year to protect our community in Isla Vista and to protect the people living here and working and thriving in this community. So that's one more thing I wanted to bring up as a tangible thing that you could really grab onto. Thanks.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Darren, it has been said that an independent candidate has no chance of winning the presidential election. Do you feel this statement is true? And do you feel an independent candidate has a better or worse chance of coming out victorious?
Well, as an independent, you don't have little workers working for you to support you and raise awareness about your platform. And it is difficult to win an election as an independent, but I believe that it is possible. Anything is possible if you put your heart to it. And I believe that I can do this job well and that students recognize me as a leader here on campus and that they'll support me and other independents as well running this election. There's, I believe, 7 candidates running independently, and each candidate has the opportunity to win, and they just need to voice their opinions and rally up student votes to support them, and that it's very important to raise awareness within the AS elections, and that it may be difficult to be publicized out there, but with the support of your friends and faculty members, I believe that an independent has a great opportunity of winning an election.
Wayne, you get a 1-minute rebuttal.
I think that an independent definitely has a chance to win. But I think in terms of what it is also looking at in terms of what the network, in terms of what the person has worked or done work on this community, and also looking in terms of what is the support base. And I think one of the most important things in terms of being part of a party is that you have this diverse group of folks who will be running with you and that will continue to support you, and that you are helping to create that voice, whether or not you as an individual cannot work on 10 million different things, but that are folks within this network of folks that will continue to work on these issues, and that you keep yourself accountable to these communities. And and that we, as a party and as someone who's running in a party, that you have this pleasure of trying to create the voices for everyone. And I think that it's quite difficult unless you, in terms of as an independent, learning and having that experience for students and having that connection within that community or association.
Darren, you get a 30-second counter rebuttal.
Well, as an independent, I'm not confined to the ideals and ideas of a party. And I think that if elected, independent has more creative, can bring to the AS more creative ideas, and that there will be much more intricate workings within Associated Students, and that an independent will bring these ideas. And as president, I could persuade different councils to adopt my ideas, and that's very important.
Thank you. At this time, each candidate will have a 2-minute closing statement, and Stephanie, we'll start with you.
Great. So, again, my name is Stephanie Brower, and I'm running with the Open People's Party here for Associated Students President. And in the past couple of months, as I geared up for this election and made plans to run, the biggest question I got was, why do you want to run for AS president? What exactly do you want to do? What exactly are you going to do? And that question really made me think. The point is, I want to make this university the best place it can possibly be for the students who go here. I want to leave this office and to know that because of the work I've done, students are living and thriving better. I have the tools to do this. I've worked this entire year doing just that, making the small steps that will be built upon by the leaders in the future so that our university can grow and become better and better. I'm here to make tangible changes that will affect you as a student. I want you to know what I'm doing and to know that it's actually affecting you, that your funds, that your time, that the trust you've put in your elected officials is coming up to something for you. It'd be my pleasure to work and to do this for you. It's all the little things to me. It's the fact that now, without even knowing it, people can bike back and forth safely into our campus. That students who don't live on the campus aren't marginalized and don't have less access to our resources. I also think it's really important that all the parties at UCSB, that all the students at UCSB, that all the groups, from Greeks to athletes to everyday students to students who are here for academics to students who just want to party, know that Associated Students is there for them and that they will be affected by the changes that we make. UCSB is an amazing community. We have such a beautiful, diverse place we live, and my only goal is to make this place better for you every day, every night, every time you go out to party that you feel safer, every time you come to campus that there's better resources for you. I am willing to work and to be your advocate on a variety of issues. I've done it this year, and no matter what happens in this election, I will continue to do it for the duration of my time at UCSB. I would love your vote because I would love to continue working for you to make UCSB an even better place to live. Thanks.
Thank you. Twin.
Again, hi everyone. My name is Twin Nguyen, running with Students Party. And one of the biggest things, and I think I've heard in terms of my opponent here, is that I think if you look at it in terms of all these things we said, you know, these are beautiful issues, these are things that we will work on. Let's look at things that we worked on and things that we promised and look at things that have been done. I think in terms of let's look at what has been done for students here and what us individually have worked for students and what our folks within these parties have worked for us. And I think if you looked into what I have done within this campus within the past 3 years, that you've seen that I've touched on run many variety activities and have made this campus, whether it be educating students on their rights during Halloweens, whether it's to working for more attendance rights, or whether it's to continue to expand this campus, or to continue to work on recruitment and retention on this campus, and for folks to create a safer space for folks on this campus. And I think when I'm elected and when I get into this office, that we need to know and understand that this office has been underutilized, that students' voice has been stagnant for the first year because there was lack of experience. And we need someone in this office that has that experience so that we can fully use these positions that you elect folks in to keep these folks accountable and look across the way in terms of who will be able to make that accountability for both myself and the administrators and local officials and other folks across this campus. And I've had that experience with both administrators and students, and it's that we need to work together. And I think for many years, and while I've been here and working with different people on this campus, is that we learn to work together. And so you and I can continue to work together and to different things, and let me know in terms of what it is that I can do for you or what we can work together with to accomplish on this campus. And I think creating safer spaces and with folks that have run with us or folks that haven't, is that we want to continue to work with an associate students to better serve you and to bring you into the circle of students and what seems to be so disconnected, so that we can work together to create a safer environment, to create a more enjoyable space, to create more accessibility and affordability for this campus, because all these issues are interconnected. And as we've learned from last night, is that we are connected in one way or another. So let's help each other and work together to create this better campus. And let's continue to work that way for the years to come, and not on the some upcoming years, but whether or not it's the end of the spring, to work forward for that and to work together to do that. And so my name is Twin and Win with Students Party. I have the experience to move the organization forward and to provide better resources for you and to work with you to continue to do that. So yeah.
Thank you.
Last but not least, in case it has slipped your mind, I'm Darren Reed Frawley, and I'm running for AS Student Body President as an independent candidate. And I'm here to represent the student body. And as a AS President, I believe that I can make a presence on campus and show myself as a leader. And I think it's important to work towards a betterment of the UCSB community, and that there's a need to advocate the students' voice. And living on campus and off campus for 2 years, I've realized what's important to students to enjoy their experience here at UCSB. And with a bunch of compassionate students, I believe that there's a need to support them in their efforts for humanitarian causes or academic tutoring for younger students and community members. I believe that there's also a need for financial responsibility among allocating money towards student organizations, and that I can have say in where this money is being sent out to students, and that there's no money to be wasted among the associated students, and that I feel that there's need for strong leadership, and I could take advantage of the responsibilities and powers given towards the AS president to use these powers to work with AS committee members and peers, and that there's need for access to work within AS and voice your opinions and just make it more public to the students that they have say in what's going on here on campus and within AS, and that they can affect change without holding an AS student leadership position. Here on campus, I am a student leader, and I'll voice the students' opinion and make change.
Thank you to all the candidates, and thank you to the audience for your time. This concludes the presidential debate. A link to these debates can be found on the Associated Students website, and we will resume in a few minutes with the forum for the university-owned housing reps. Thanks.
Good.